Olivia exemplified what it is, the goodness of an immigrant Mexicano mom. Always wanted the best for her kids, but also wanted the best for all the kids of Highland, or her neighborhood, or her school. And that is just so powerful. Just so powerful. They have made so many efforts to transform the Highland neighborhood, which is one in where parents are not involved in the school, and they have continuous working with the principal and continue working with the CSAC, who is the community outreach person, in trying to make sure that parents come to the parent conferences, that parents come to the events, and it is growing. Highland is becoming a community school. And that have been with the efforts of several people, but the transformation is remarkable. It was been happening not only in the school, but in the neighborhood of Highland.
Hello, welcome to InSight. I'm Wendy Brokaw. Imagine being a parent with little to no connection to the elementary school your children attend, and a language barrier that makes communication with teachers and staff even harder. Olivia Alvarez so wanted a high-quality education for her boys. What made her overcome her shyness and discomfort to push for it? Today, we're going to learn her story and how it turned her into a leader, and the school and the community into partners in that dream. Would you please welcome my guests, Olivia Alvarez and her son, Brian. Hello.
Hello.
I'm so excited to see you here today. This is wonderful. Brian, your mom has asked us, because it's easier, to just have you translate for her. Olivia, first, tell us your story, coming as you did to America and settling in the Willamette Valley.
Yo llegué aquí desde marzo 99. De México, con mi esposo, y pues muchas cosas pasaron. Salí embarazada de él en cuanto me junté con mi esposo. Nos mudamos a Washington a vivir 7 años. De ahí pues se iba a terminar el trabajo para mi esposo, entonces nos volvimos a mudar para acá, para Oregon, en el 2009. Y ya de ahí pues tenemos viviendo aquí en Oregon desde el 2009.
Yeah, so she came over here to the United States back in March of 1999, and she came here with my father, Olivia's husband, Guadalupe, and she moved over here and moved up to Washington, established herself there for around 7 years before moving down here to Salem and staying here since then.
And you got work here?
Yes, yeah, moving around in a lot of agricultural positions when they first started out.
Olivia, what was it about the schools that bothered you?
A mí me interesó que mis hijos tuvieran educación porque yo nunca la tuve. Yo no tuve la oportunidad en mi país ni de estudiar. Yo tenía 9 años y no sabía leer ni escribir. 9 years old, and nothing school for me. Ya, entonces, por esa razón, siempre estaba constante que tenían que estudiar, porque para mí pues siento que esa es la mejor manera de que ellos tengan un mejor futuro.
She felt that since she only got education up to 9 years old at her time, and she was very limited over there in Mexico, she saw the need of, what education really is worth and the value of it, and she made it her ultimate goal to educate every single one of us. Obviously, she was starting with me. I was the test dummy, and she really pushed on all of us to make sure we got our education. She was always there making sure, because she felt that getting an education is an extremely valuable asset.
Olivia, what was holding you back from being an advocate for the change you wanted?
Lo que a mí me motivó para estar en el concilio y ayudar pues a los estudiantes en lo que pues donar mi tiempo un poquito es pues el ver que los papás pues no tenían interés en la escuela, en las juntas, a veces no asisten. Queremos ver cambios en la escuela, pero la realidad es muy diferente. Cuando se trata de una junta en las escuelas, son muy pocos los papás que asisten. Entonces, pues, nos hizo una reunión don Eduardo Angulo y nos explicó del programa de hacer concilios para ayudar a nuestras escuelas. Y pues, no estaba convencida, sentía que no era lo mío, soy muy tímida para hablar en público, pero pues nos dio mucha confianza a las mamás que estábamos ahí y pues decidimos inscribirnos y pues después de 3 años, Siri, aquí estamos, aquí estoy con ustedes.
She didn't really see a lot of resources available for the families, and as she ended up seeing how parents were going through in school and how the schools were treating their children, like she didn't really see a lot of change going on. However, when one day she went on a meeting and student parent meeting, and she ended up meeting Eduardo, and
Tell us.
Yeah, Eduardo, and he talked to my mom and asked her about how questions about how she felt about the school, the resources. Do you think they're doing enough for their students? And she had a lot of concerns that there wasn't a lot of resources for parents, and she was very timid and asking those questions even to him. And he invited her to come to a meeting and to really voice her concerns. And at first she was very shy and unsure that even her voice would be heard. But she took the step forward and went to the meeting, and from that moment on is what made her become a new leader, part of the community.
And did you take his suggestion to actually help found one of the things that he was hoping you might be, a family council for the school? Call it the Highland Neighborhood Council. Mm-hmm. And you did it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Did you get any help from this neighborhood council that Eduardo Angulo is head of, the neighborhood councils? Did you get any help with that, to do something as big as becoming a leader?
Yeah, I know.
And getting people involved?
Yeah, es muy bueno para envolvernos en buena manera. Gracias a él, pues estamos varias mamás que al principio pues no queríamos, decíamos, no, yo no soy para esto, no lo vamos a lograr, y ahí estaba él, no, sí pueden, nosotros los vamos a ayudar, y bueno, y por esa razón ahí estamos todavía ayudándole, porque en realidad pues ellos son los que mueven todo, nosotros nada más prestamos nuestro servicio que damos a la escuela, a los eventos para las familias, los niños. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she felt very welcomed, and I think Eduardo, to put in analogies, he was really like the glue and the parents, the mothers, the fathers were the little sticks, and to combine and make it into a really nice building where everyone is comes in and supported and in there. That's what Eduardo was to my mom. He was very helpful. He really welcomed everyone, especially her during her time. To really, again, she was very shy and timid. She didn't really know what she could do would really make change. But Eduardo was really awesome, and pushing not only her but the other mothers and of course other fathers as well, and parents to come out, come help, support, come. I want to listen to your feedback, and that's what my mom really takes out from how welcoming it felt, especially while she was being trained with everything.
How was the school when you went to talk with them, the principal? Did they want to support you in this at first or not?
No mucho. No. Nosotros hemos sido voluntarias de los otros concilios y hemos visto el interés de los directores, los maestros. Están ahí cuando hacemos un evento, ayudan, la directora no se va hasta que todos nos vamos. Y en el caso de nosotros, en el concilio de Highland, sí se presenta a los eventos un ratito, luego se va. Como que no hay ese interés de ella hacia la comunidad. Sus razones tendrá, no sé.
She noticed that unlike there's the other councils, but for the Highland Council, she unfortunately saw a disparity going on, where the other school principal and the teachers would often stay there for the other events. She noticed the one for Highland, for example, wouldn't be as supportive and wouldn't stay as long during when she would volunteer. She saw that when you want to be a leader and you're there to represent the school for your students, especially since for those who are up in administration, she noticed that this lack of community going on from that, and because your leaders should be those in administration being able to provide resources, and she saw that difference, and so there's that thing that she noticed, unfortunately, while being part of the council. But being able to speak up to promote change on that was one of her things that she pushed for.
Something changed all of that. It was a holiday event that was hosted at Highland School that really made a big difference. Tell us all about that with the school and got them interested in saying, wow, we might be able to do this.
Sí, hicimos, nos arriesgamos al evento de diciembre, de las fiestas, regalos para los niños, y pues se nos ocurrió que pues una comida típica de cocinada o sea, pues preparada en ese momento, era pues algo que pues no tienen otros eventos y que sería bueno para reunir más familia, porque siempre que van a los eventos pues hay pizza, hot dogs y todo eso, entonces muchas familias no quieren ir. Y desde ese evento, ya después, cuando hacemos otros eventos, hay muchísima familia porque saben que va a haber buena comida, va a haber regalos para sus niños, y pues sí es mucho trabajo, pero es muy gratificante ver tantos niños contentos.
I think the big takeaway was she takes her and the council took the risk of trying to do something different with especially the way they prepare the food. One thing she noticed was, for example, like when a lot of previous events, they had like pizza, hot dogs, very standard things that could be quickly purchased and all that. But they took the risk of taking it and doing it homemade and there, and they felt more like like a community, like in our traditional Hispanic culture, we like to have that sense of welcoming, right? Of coming in, there's food, there's activities for the kids, for them to have fun, so they can run around, and having all that, especially like the little toys and like little gifts that they also get, motivates them to come as well. And especially because you know, moms and dads, they get tired from work, and sometimes you need to have like some cool activity for the kids so they can have, and they can also unwind and enjoy food and also catch up with everyone else as well. And so I think that's something she wanted to push for.
How many people came to this wonderful event, this first one?
Pues casi como yo creo más de 300. Yeah. Y los últimos han sido más.
Yeah, she said that approximately like around 300 families have come, even in the very first one, and then it's ever since grown. And her rough estimate says it's approximately 500 families on our more later events that we've had.
It's crazy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay.
How did this one big event help the parents feel they wanted to be a part of the school?
Pues hemos visto que ya los papás se han mostrado más interesados en asistir a los eventos, a las juntas, a la escuela. Ya miramos más papás, y pues ellos no tenían idea de... siempre creían que no era importante o involucrarse en la educación de sus hijos, y parte del concilio es explicarles y hacerles saber la importancia para que sus hijos tengan un mejor futuro. Entonces sí, hemos visto un poquito de cambio en los papás.
It was to change the mentality that parents should be a part of their children's educations actively, right? You send them off to school and everything, right? But being a part of their community, being a part of going to see going to these events and going to see not just the teachers, but also the other families that your children is going to and are hanging out with is very important. And then it's to change that mentality that going to parent-teacher conferences, right? That you should be going, because it's an unfortunate disparity within our Hispanic culture that sometimes it's not viewed as important to go to those like parent-teacher conferences, and we wanted to change that. And my mother and part of the council team, the council was pushing that, and which is why one of the biggest motivations for the event, and since then has been very successful.
And how did this change the dynamic with the school officials themselves and their willingness to partner with you or even help?
Pues creo que cambió en el aspecto de que pues creo que los maestros tampoco se sentían apreciados. Por ejemplo, en las Navidades ellos no les hacían ningún tipo de fiesta, evento. Entonces el concilio aprobó llevarles, una vez hicimos creo que fue birria, les llevamos comida. Después el día del maestro, también se les llevó comida, y no sé si después otras ocasiones snacks y cosas así. Entonces como que un poquito sí han visto la diferencia cuando se involucró el concilio en Highland.
The Highland Council has really made it their goal to make our teachers feel appreciated as well. Part of that was, and what my mother was a part of it, is making sure we recognize, that the teachers matter, and by the parents also being involved and helping, by providing food for them, celebrating them, like during the holiday season, like during Christmas time. Usually there's nothing really going on for teachers to be celebrated, because they have teachers that, like the Teacher Appreciation Week, but really nothing during the end of the year, which they spend most of their year teaching the children, and they wanted to change that and make it so they feel more welcomed. Again, closing that gap and making sure teachers are accessible to the parents, and also the parents are also willing to appreciate, the teachers as well, because ultimately the teachers are our frontline, education workers that, they're there to educate the children and future children as well.
Brian, a big part of your life growing up was the help that you got from your parents and your mom with your homework, and with just sort of taking that part in your education. Is that being encouraged, and in so what way, here at Highland and you're at council?
So, right, at the time that I was, growing up and studying, right, I went to Weddell, and they had a little bit different. My parents were very limited in terms of what they could be able to provide resource-wise, and helping me do homework and all that. My mom always felt bad that she couldn't really do much to help, like, tutor me in certain aspects, right? But I was very grateful for my teachers and, like, everyone around me, that they were really willing to push me forward and make sure I kept learning, regardless of, not having more access to resources such as tutoring. And I do feel like that dynamic has been changing, and I haven't seen it in person, but I do imagine that Highland is now providing more resources to parents to help with students that potentially aren't, as gifted in certain areas, and, like, for example, math, reading, but there could be more resources available. And I can definitely see that council has been making it a big push to provide those resources.
So many of these young children arrive at school having only heard Spanish at home. Was that your situation?
Yeah, interestingly, when I was in Washington, it was difficult. Well, I would say it was a big, abrupt transition. Maybe because I was younger, I was able to conform faster, but there was no Spanish education for me. I immediately had to learn English, and it was very rough. I remember my mom talking to me that it was a very rough transition, because I came home speaking only Spanish, but I went to school only English, so I was, like, at a disadvantage. But I was very young and malleable, and it was very quick to adapt to that. There is much more resources for that. I mean, when I went to high school here at North Salem, they had more dual language, Spanish. They have more educational resources available now compared to when I was a little boy. And I'm pretty sure I seen Highland also has much more. Both the teachers are bilingual and speak English and Spanish, which is perfect to bridge that gap. I wasn't as gifted, or I didn't have that resource when I was growing up. But that didn't stop me from learning, of course.
As a matter of fact, you did rather well. How did you graduate from North?
Oh, North. Now I'm getting older, so it feels like it shouldn't be that far, but it is now. I think it was now 7 years ago. Mostly because my mom always was on top of me, making sure my grades were high, and I really wanted to get a really good career. It was always my end goal. I studied really a lot, and getting A's was like my go-to, like, factor, right? It was like my push, my motivation. And the funny thing is, technically, when I graduated from North, and I got 1B from one of, like, my AP physics course, and I was devastated because I was the first and final B, and it was, like, the last semester. But it turns out that I became valedictorian. They declared us salutatorians, but in reality we're valedictorians because there was no true valedictorian. It was one of my closest friends. And I feel like despite that, it was just that motivation of constantly going through school, constantly, aiming for the higher education. I think path was always one of my biggest guidances, apart from my mom's motivation, of course. But yeah.
So you were a co-valedictorian.
Yes.
When you graduated.
Yeah, it was I don't want to be like, I want to be humble. I was very grateful I got that. I do want it to be the true one, but, I ended up getting a B. But again, despite that, I think it taught me a lot about, it's okay to fail and keep going forward, right?
Tell us about the rest of your education. Where did you go to college?
Yeah, my undergrad, I went to Linfield. It was originally called Linfield College, but then they upgraded to Linfield University now. Linfield was an awesome, very small private university. I never thought I would be capable to afford and go to a private university. I believe at the time the average tuition was like $40-something thousand per year, but I got a full ride, and I was very lucky to be given that opportunity. Given a small university, I was able to study and do my mathematics degree, and I love my professors there. Professor Britcher is one of my favorite professors over there, and if you ever saw this, I would just say he was one of the biggest motivators for me to continue, because during my undergrad I had a bad accident in 22 where I got T-boned and I got sent to the hospital, and I was out for 2 months because I got internal hemorrhaging in the brain. I was bleeding inside, but I healed, thankfully. No surgery was required, but I was mentally regressed a little bit, but he helped me do high-level mathematics. He gave a little bit more tutoring, and I'm very grateful to that. But afterwards, after I graduated and left Linfield, I was set on becoming a data scientist, and because I was narrowing down what path I wanted to take, and I really loved mathematics. I really loved data. So when I went to do my master's degree, I ended up going to Willamette University for my data science program, and how I ended up getting there was because of one of my math advisors. Her name was Jennifer Nordstrom. She introduced me to the idea of data science, and since I was bridging my gap with using my math degree, since I had a lot of logical and mathematical foundation, I needed to find something more practical, and I found data sciences to be the really cool one, because then I was like, okay, data scientist is my career that I was shooting for, because I really liked the idea of working with large data sets and being able to take data and convert it into something really cool. And I went and did my master's degree in Willamette, graduated, learned a lot of practical things, but I wasn't really done because I felt that I didn't get enough foundational, knowledge on statistics. And I think at this time I was being very, again, pursuing as much as I can. I was pursuing originally a PhD in statistics, and I went to Oregon State. And I went and did the program. I got my master's, but ultimately I found out that the program was not the right fit for me specifically. It was more theoretical, heavy research than I wanted to be. And so I postponed doing a PhD in statistics, and I ended up just graduating at Oregon State with my second master's degree in statistics. I never thought I would find myself having not just one master's degree, but two. But I think it was a reality of when I found out how to do the first process, doing another one didn't feel as difficult. Ultimately, all of that led to me now landing my job that I have now, which I'm very grateful for.
What kind of work do you do now?
So now I'm working for a startup company. It's a new investing firm. Don't like to call it firm, but it's more of it's a group. It's called Foxtrot Legacy Group, and essentially our goal is to make investing easier for newcomers. So
you must be so proud.
Yeah. Yeah, I am.
And your brothers, how were they doing?
They're doing great. My youngest brother is now attending Parish Middle School, and he's doing good. My second brother, who is the middle one, Brandon, he moved back with us. He went off and was over there at Redmond, and he came back with us. He's now working at the U.S. Bank. His ultimate goal, his education aspirations is pretty up there as well, is to become a lawyer. And he's working at U.S. Bank, and he's starting right now back in Chemeketa, getting his associate's degree out of the way so he can transfer to Oregon State, get his pre-law done, and then ultimately his aspirations is to apply to either UW, University of Oregon, for one of those two, and other ones because he's trying to get a really high LSAT score so he can qualify for those.
Do you have anything to do with CBEL yourself? Do you help your mom out at all
Yes.
with what she does?
And I've been helping her a lot more. Yeah. I think it's something that I didn't consider doing a lot of volunteering. I've done a lot of personal, sports and other activities, but I've never done true volunteering like I've done with my mother and CBEL. I wasn't really aware how much things she was doing. So the more, because she would just be going, I remember one day she was just randomly going off and doing meetings. And I was like, where are you going, right? Because it's like, I don't know if it's an older child thing where I'm like, where's my mom going? Where is she? I was like, I would be tracking the time. It's like, she's not normally home. And I found out she was working with CBEL on the console. And I was like, huh. And it got me a little peaked. And, she then asked me, do you want to come help? And I think the first one I was busy because of school, but the second time I went and helped her out, and, I've been helping more and more, so.
What do you make of your mom now after all this change? What do you think of her?
She's not as shy and timid as she used to be, that's for sure. Yeah, she used to be very reserved, but she's becoming more, extroverted, I guess, which is a good thing. I mean, I'm also very introverted, and I like to keep to myself, but I think it's been awesome that she's been really helping the community out. I'm not saying it shocked me, but it was a surprise that she's been getting involved so much, and I think it's been great for not only herself, but everyone around her and the council.
Olivia, this has really been enjoyable learning about what you do. What does neighborhood work do for you?
Creo que el concilio para mí ha funcionado porque pues me saca de mi rutina, me da motivación para hacer algo diferente que pues yo nunca había hecho, y pues creo que pues nadie sabíamos de los recursos que hay para la comunidad. Entonces eso es para mí el concilio, pues aprender y mejorar uno como vecindario con las ayudas que podemos conseguir con la gente adecuada.
Mm-hmm. To her, doing council work is getting her out of the house, out of her normal routine, and doing change, just being involved, and being able to provide resources for the community is just something that motivates her to go out and be a part of that. And she ultimately, finds it very rewarding in doing so.
Do you have community partners now?
Sí, ha habido más conexiones, he conocido más gente. Gracias al concilio conocí CBEL, que son los cafecitos que hacen en las mañanas, y pues creo que hay muchas ayudas para la comunidad que uno no sabe que existen. Entonces, aparte hay muchas compañeras también paisanas de uno que también se reúnen y pues he conocido bastante gente y eso pues me gusta mucho.
she's seen more and more of the community partners partner up with the council, such as SIBO, of course. She didn't mention it specifically, but there's been a large range of small organizations joining. Marion Polk County. I've seen a lot more. Oh man, there's so many to list from of like the partners that I've helped, especially for Fun Friday. So many of them coming in, putting up their booths. That's what she's seen. Our huge community leaders, the Salem Police, Kaiser Police, they are wonderful. The firefighting departments for both cities. In SIBO, going in there to do the meetings, being able to meet the former Supreme Court Justice, to being able to meet and see our mayors and our other community leaders. There's been a lot that she's experienced and she's seen.
Olivia and Brian Alvarez, thank you so very much for being my guest today on InSight. It was an experience.
Yeah.
We'll be keeping up with you. There is much more about the Highland School Family Council available on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Highland Neighborhood Family Council. And for more information about CBEL, the Community Business and Education Leaders, go to their website at cbelsalem.org. Thank you for joining us today on InSight. I'm Wendy Brokaw.